Hi, my name's Seán Cullen, and you are now at ShowbizMonkeys.com. Hey, don't fling your poo.
Around this town, I'm alright. Around this town, I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire.
It's kind of the first run through. The whole show is an hour.
Okay.
That I've been able to get done. I've done, all of the material, but never at once. So I'm looking forward to that to be kind of the dress rehearsal and opening. And then the Royal I'm trying to get a lot of people into,
Right. No, because I've seen you workshopping the material around the city.
Yeah.
So how much in your process is their prep versus improv? Because you're quite known for improv.
I can improvise. Well, but the thing is, I think you have to have a solid base of material to improv from. Like, you have to have a platform, and then you can depart from it, and hopefully it'll be humorous for people. I think you can't just go out and just meander around. I think they expect a certain amount of, prepared stuff.
That's very nice of you.
Well, it is nice. I mean, people pay money for shows. You want them to get, not that improv isn't a standard thing, a real thing. That
no, you're very highly regarded, and I would be disappointed for one if I didn't see you go off on a tangent.
So, it's just been trying to get an hour together, a new hour. I wanted to have a whole new hour of material, so I've been doing so many 7-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute slots all over the city for the last few months, and finally I think we're kind of ready to go.
I'm very excited to see it, because it's not so often I get to see how the sausage is made before the full hour.
Well, there's going to be a lot of sausage for sure.
Yeah.
I think.
You have such a, I don't want to say weirdly diverse background in performing that this seems like such a cliche to ask a comic off the top, but like, who are the people that made you want to do this? Because I feel there's probably some comedians in there, but I'm interested if there's like painters or.
Well, I love all kinds of performance and art and writing. I love all kinds of things. But when I was a kid, I guess watching Monty Python, I loved Monty Pythons because they were really smart, but acted like idiots. And I thought that was a great formula, to be so superior in intelligence and then choose to hit each other with the fish or, just the strangest things they would come up with. And when I was 10, my dad let us watch Saturday Night Live when it first came on. I remember the advertisements for the first show was hosted by George Carlin, and the Muppets were on it. And for me, my seminal, what first kind of conscious I'd like to do that was John Belushi and Bill Murray and Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin. All of those people, and Gilda Radner, on seeing them do that and people loving it, I just thought that's the greatest thing ever.
Was that what you wanted originally, though, to be specifically in a group? Because you were in a group with Corky.
I was, but it wasn't. We were never a sketch group. We did sketches in Corky and the Juice Pigs. We also did music, and we did stand up and a trio of kind of stand up stuff, but I guess the first things I saw was like sketch troops, and Second City as well. I loved Second City, and that was like, it's just from Toronto. You could this could happen. You could make a chat. You could possibly take the step from being funny in Toronto and then end up on television. It's crazy.
Yeah,
that was a crazy concept at the time.
We're right beside the building. We could spit and it would land on the main stage.
That is correct. And so that was. All of I guess sketch was the first thing I really loved to watch. I loved Robin Williams back in the day when they had put out LPs. I had a couple of I used to love watching. Back when there were only 3 channels, one of the things that was on was Johnny Carson. I loved Johnny Carson because, and it always be waiting for the comic to come on. When they have a comic on, it was just the best. And so that's where I saw people like, I'm drawing a blank, but Robin Williams was on there. Steve Martin performed on Joey Bishop. That whole also. the 70s was full of variety shows like Carol Burnett, and I was a huge Tim Conway fan, and I got to work with him on a pilot with Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, really?
It was really fun. He was just hilarious, one of the funniest people I've ever seen. And also Dean Martin's roasts, where they just have, they're nothing compared to the Friars roast as far as filth and vitriol, but it was really just funny to see these celebrities cracking each other up.
I was expecting you to say Jonathan Winters, which made me think of the
Jonathan Winters,
Dean Martin
absolutely,
show.
yeah,
because he was really like under the wire subversive. Because Dean Martin would be drunk, so if he could get Dean Martin to like curse on stage, then he could curse too, or he could be a filthy grandmother that loved sex, or a
like he played women characters, men characters. He did everything, and he was so strange, and you've got the feeling he was making it up right on the spot, and that was just awe-inspiring to me.
Did because we were talking about Monty Python, smart to be silly. Do you find that being silly yourself, and I've heard you curse in real life. I've never heard you do anything like that on stage. Does being clean and silly allow you to go deeper and darker?
I think it does. I think when you're kind of misleading people in a way that you can get away with more if it sounds like you're a good, solid, clean citizen. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I sometimes swear, very, very rarely on stage, but I try to imagine my mom's in the audience, so then I try not to swear too much. And I also think it's lazy. I think it's a little lazy. And I don't know, everything about performance for me is like maybe you should dress a little better than the audience. You should try a little harder. You should, hold yourself to a higher standard in a lot of ways. So that's just my philosophy.
Yeah, 100%. People paid to see you, especially now that it's such politically divisive times. Is that like a gift to be silly, where you get like a carte blanche to just...
Well, I don't know if people take you as seriously. I mean, you probably don't get as much cred as someone who's really political. But I don't know. I've never been political, even before this horrible time.
Yeah.
So, and also, it's so easy to make fun of, say, Donald Trump. He's making it for you.
Oh, the punchline is the headline is the punchline. Like
absolutely.
I saw on a newsstand the other week of the Let's Nuke Hurricanes.
Yes, I know. That's a good one.
The Onion has got to be just like drinking at 5 a.m. Just
what can we say that's funnier than that?
Yeah.
No, nothing. It's sad. But I think I think people will find it refreshing that you're not doing. I think entertainment is always at the worst of times. You go and be able to forget what is bothering you.
Yeah.
And I try and provide that,
because you also have a rather storied writing career. When you pitch stuff, because again, being a silly person, you tend to be very high concept of a very silly premise. So how do you pitch things?
Well, it's been hard because I've kind of over the years it's been beaten out of me. I did my first show. I was given carte blanche to be as weird as I could be, and CBC were like, "Yeah, just go weird." Yeah, the Seán Cullen show, and I wanted to make something that was kind of like Pee Wee's Playhouse, but also kind of harkened back to like the old Jack Benny show or old timey. Early television shows where people walk in the door and you go, oh, it's Steve Allen, hello, and it was really that, and I wanted it to be so strange, and then I just knew, now I know that it's too strange for Canada. Canada can't handle it. Like the audience is just like, I don't like this. It's annoying. It's makes me angry. But then they'll go and watch Tim and Eric and just eat it right up.
Well, okay. Can I pay you a compliment?
Oh,
it's I grew up. I saw that show first, And then somebody showed me It's Gary Shandling's show.
Oh, yeah.
In the reverse order. I'm like, well, that's just Sean's show, but there's all these extra rules and structure.
Yeah, I love that It's Gary Shandling show. Yeah, I just remember one episode where he found out that someone was going to be killed in the fourth scene, and so he kept trying to stop the scenes from going forward, but they'd accidentally go to the next scene, and he'd be getting more and more upset. It was really good, but that's what I loved that show. I think mine was a little more crazy, like weirder, but. Yeah, but I just when I remember going into the CBC offices and I said, well, people don't like this show. They told me, and I said, okay, well, I can fix this, I can do this, and they said, no, you don't seem to understand. There's no way we're making any more Seán Cullen shows. And I said, oh, well, good. So I think if I'd re-released it now, the mainstream has come so much closer to where I'm at with that show.
Right.
I think it would go down a lot better. I was
trying to find episodes of it online, and it's a shame because I always thought of it as like Pee-wee's Playhouse, but it also had some Rocky and Bullwinkle in there.
Yeah, there's some strange. There's a Sasquatch in it. Mm-hmm. There was an evil temptress next door. It was really fun. I just had a great time writing it. And I'll never get this chance again. But I wrote every episode, and we had a band on the set that we played music. That was a huge part of it. The show, when we were shooting it, was so much fun. The audiences had such a good time, but. It was hard to kind of shoehorn all of that entertainment into 22 minutes for the CBC. And again, the Canadian audience. People always say Canadian audiences, Canada's really funny. And it isn't. They really don't have a great sense of humor. I mean, I think a lot of the time, it's very prosaic. They're like people with wigs on. I'm the prime minister. That kind of. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Is it sort of we make funny comedians, but we're too repressed to actually?
Well, it's a function also of the size of the country, I think, because we only have 36 million people. So, trying to make a fringe hit is not going to make anybody any money. So you want something that pleases the most people possible. And that's like a sitcom about a family. Or, this is torn from the headlines, that kind of stuff.
One thing I've noticed about a lot of the material you've been workshopping lately
is me weeping?
Well, talking about depression specifically.
Yeah.
So is that newer?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't think I ever talk about myself in my act. I usually talk about, in the most general and weird terms. I talk about situations like trying to lose weight and by making up weird diet, / physical exercises that I have to do. But in depression, I do have to suffer from depression. I take medication and stuff like that, and I went through a divorce about 5 years ago, and I'm still reverberating through my life, and it's not great, but I tried to couch it into something that's more like weird, like I talk about dating a raccoon for a while. That's fun. So I try and skew it more towards my weird world.
I too am on medication.
What do you take?
On 3.
I have 2.
Oh, okay. Well, pick your favorite one.
Citalopram?
Oh, I'm sertraline.
Cymbalta. Do you have Cymbalta?
I haven't had that one.
Cymbalta and Abilify are mine.
I might have to take Abilify because it's switching over to. I'm actually bipolar now.
Oh,
so they
sweet.
made a whoopsie daisy. Yeah, I'm waiting for the up.
Oh, that's the one.
Happen.
That's the. That's what you were talking about on stage the other day. They gave you the wrong medication, but they said don't stop taking it or you'll die.
Right.
Yeah.
It was fun, and my doctor ended the voicemail message with, "But you can drink again."
Oh, so that's good.
Fun.
Because drinking is great for people who are bipolar. It really gives them a big boost.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Good. Thank you, doctor.
Now that you're on the medication, something I love asking is, did you have to retrain your brain for creativity?
Well, it's hard to say because I've been on medication for a long time for depression, and I guess I've always been depressed, but I don't think there was a huge retraining process. I think I went through a long period right after my divorce a few years ago where I was just like, I don't feel funny about anything anymore.
Yeah.
And then coming back to it now, having to write this new show and continue to write and create things. For a couple of years, I was just like, oh, this is terrible. I'm not funny at all. What's so funny about anything? And then finally, I've kind of come to terms with all of that, and I'm making things again and finding out what I find funny again. So does that make any sense? I don't know.
No, that's a perfectly good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump to a funner, silly one. Because you've had such written for TV,
Mm-hmm.
you hosted a radio show. I loved What Were They Thinking?
Oh yeah, I love that show too.
That was a good show. Is there a spot where you feel the most comfortable?
Well, I loved What Were They Thinking. It was we went around to small towns around Canada and people who'd built giant frying pans or Sasquatches. Or
I like the Squirrel Bridge a lot.
The Squirrel Bridge with those three guys, the creepy guys in the barbershop quartet who would sing songs about the Squirrel Bridge. Yeah, they were weird. So yeah, I love that. I love those. I love talking to people. I did a Christmas special back for the CBC before they realized that they didn't think I was funny anymore.
Yeah.
At that point, I did a Christmas special for my own hometown in Peterborough, Ontario, and I went around with a representative of the city who's their tourist or Chamber of Commerce person, and I gave her a tour of Peterborough and told her what actually the things were, and it was quite fun. And I love that kind of interacting with the public sort of stuff, And my show involved talking to the audience quite a bit. The Seán Cullen show, I liked that as well.
And the radio show.
The radio show, I talk and talk. I love the immediacy of live audiences. I mean, it's fun to do live comedy. It's been strange, doing this because I've been having to come up with bits, over the last few months. I don't feel as free as I have been in the past. Don't feel like I'm improvising and connecting with the audience as much as I usually do. So we'll see if these hour-long shows give me a little bit more opportunity to do that.
Well, because I was going to ask if the Seán Pod is coming back.
Well, the Seán Pod will come back. I got tired and I liked it. I like doing the Seán Pod. It's just hard to get all the elements together and do it. It's gone through a few iterations. One's just me sitting in a room talking to the recorder. That was fun. I enjoyed. And then there's the live pod I do with Mark Edwards where we play music and, do games with the audience and stuff like that.
Right, a comedy bar.
Yeah, and we did also a version that was like a trivia show. We did a few trivia episodes, which were quite fun, but it's just getting all the and I've been working on doing this new show, so I've kind of let it slide a bit, but I will come back to do more pods.
Because you started performing in the 80s, 90s, and you're very improv-based stand-up, you fit comfortably into both worlds. Did you find that there was a huge divide between improvisers and stand-ups, but did you have to deal with that?
No, no. I auditioned for Second City way back in 1987 or 8, and I didn't get past the first process. They didn't make it through the audition, but I've always done lots of improvisation, but never really done theater sports. I understand the tenets of theater sports, but I never really did Transformation of Who and stuff. I just dabbled in it. I've always been a fringe character in that world, but I think it's become a lot more fluid. I think people go back and forth as they need to make money and to, be creative. There's a lot more stand-ups doing improv and improvers getting into the stand-up world. And I think people are trying to discover formats. It's more, things like now that the Comedy Bar exists in Toronto, there's a place for people to go, here's my format for a show, like Whoopsie.
Oops, That's a Whoopsie.
Oops, That's a Whoopsie, yeah, which is Mark Little's show. And just panel shows and trying things and, what's the one, Catch 23, and all of these shows have a place to live and develop. And they are hybrid shows of improv and stand-up.
You involve the audience in your bits quite a lot, especially on the Seán Pod. Do you think that with the new culture we're having, where everyone wants a bit of fame, everyone has a YouTube channel, everyone has that pulling people up on stage or talking to them has become so much easier because...
Well, people are a lot more open to it, certainly, and I think there's a culture of, participation that there wasn't before, probably. But a lot of, thing about the YouTube world and everything, it's not really trained people, No. They're just like, they know how to use a YouTube camera and to do an inset camera while they watch another video and then comment on it. My daughter loves them, like just watches them endlessly. And I'm just like, I understand what's going on. I just am not amazed by it,
My little cousins loved the Minecraft
explanation
ones. I'm just like, but you could just play the game.
And then figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
TDM, Dan TDM, and the Diamond Minecart.
You know more than I do.
It's very exciting.
I was going to, again, because you've had such a long, strange career, I just want to ask, who's the most interesting person in your phone?
In my phone?
Yeah. Doesn't have to be a comedian.
Andy Kim. Have you ever heard of Andy Kim?
Yes.
He's a musician. He's pretty interesting. He did Rock Me Gently, the song Rock Me Gently. He's from Montreal originally. He's of Lebanese descent. He became a rock star in the 70s, and now he does Christmas shows in Montreal and Toronto for charity, and I host them sometimes. But he's a very interesting fellow. And who else is interesting? Oh, geez. Andy Kindler's a pretty interesting guy.
My favorite shows I've seen are when you and Kindler are on the same bill.
I love him. He's just one of my favorites. He's so strange, like just so self-deprecating, and he just twists the whole idea of stand-up and turns it on itself, and it's just amazing.
Right. What's something you've just never been asked that you've always wanted to be asked? Something, I don't know, you were trying really hard at that no one noticed, or...
Geez, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that I'd like to be asked about. I love when people ask me about my books and stuff like that. I've written 5 novels for young adult readers, and I've written a new one, and they're all about my children. Mm-hmm. My first one's, my son is now going to be 19 years old. He's Hamish. So I wrote 3 books for him called the Hamish X series. Then my son Brendan, who's just turning 12, I have 2 books of his, and then I've written a novel for my daughter Cleopatra, and I'm trying to get it published now. But those are the things I really feel the proudest about, because it's hard to write a book and hard to get from one end to the other. And then when you finally see it on this bookshelf, you're like, wow, this is real.
Because they involve your children. Is that the most personal thing?
It's very personal, and also the amount of work you have to do in isolation. And when you finally achieve it, and it's done and it's been edited and it's now going to the printer, it's a pretty amazing achievement. You feel very good about yourself, even if you have no right to.
Do you have anything in life that you're just fascinated by that has nothing to do with comedy, like a hobby or just something you know too much about?
Well, I'm a big nerd I love role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, like Dungeons and Dragons. But now I never really liked Dungeons and Dragons per se. I liked all of the other peripheral ones that were like, there's one for Conan. I love Conan the Barbarian and Robert E. Howard. Mm-hmm. There's one called Call of Cthulhu, which is all about H.P. Lovecraft's world of, eldritch horror, and I love that one. I just love role-playing games. I like to read the books and know all the rules and all that stuff like that, although I rarely get to play them, but that's fun.
Well, I guess that's
enough.
That's enough.
All right.
Thank you for talking to me,
Thank
Seán.
you.
ShowbizMonkeys.com